Wild bananas, the fruit that conquered the world. When most people think of bananas, they think of a simple fruit, something picked up from a supermarket shelf, something packed into school lunches, something so common that it almost feels ordinary. Yet behind this familiar yellow fruit lies one of the most remarkable stories in agricultural history. A story of exploration, human selection, global trade, disease, and survival. Bananas are among the most widely consumed fruits on Earth. Every day, millions of people rely on them as a source of food, nutrition, and income. In some regions, they are not just a fruit, but a staple crop, providing a significant portion of daily calories for entire communities. But the bananas we eat today are very different from the bananas that existed thousands of years ago. The story begins long before supermarkets, long before plantations, and long before written history. It begins in the tropical forests of Southeast Asia and the islands of the Western Pacific. Wild bananas still exist today, and if you were to cut one open, you might be surprised by what you find. Instead of the soft, seedless flesh we know today, wild bananas contain large, hard seeds. In some species, the seeds occupy much of the fruit, leaving only a small amount of edible flesh around them. To modern tastes, they can seem almost inedible, yet early people living throughout these tropical regions noticed something important. Not every banana was the same. Occasionally, a plant would produce fruit with fewer seeds. Some were easier to eat, some tasted better, some produced larger bunches. Generation after generation, people selected these better plants and replanted them, without laboratories, without universities, without modern science, simply through observation. Over countless generations, these selections gradually transformed bananas into something entirely different from their wild ancestors. One of the most important developments was the emergence of seedless bananas. These plants could no longer reproduce effectively from seed. Instead, they relied on vegetative reproduction. New shoots, often called suckers, emerged from the base of the plant and could be separated and replanted. This meant that desirable characteristics could be preserved exactly. A particularly good banana could be copied again and again. And that simple fact would shape banana history forever. As people travelled, traded, and migrated throughout Asia and the Pacific, bananas travelled with them. The plant spread across vast distances, into India, across island chains, throughout tropical regions where conditions allowed it to thrive. Long before European exploration connected continents, bananas were already moving through human networks. Eventually, the crop reached Africa, where it became deeply integrated into local agriculture and culture. In some regions, bananas evolved beyond being a fruit eaten fresh. They became cooking bananas, staple foods, essential crops that could feed large populations. By the time Europeans began exploring tropical regions, bananas were already established across much of the world. What followed was the beginning of a new chapter, the rise of global trade. As shipping technology improved and international markets expanded, bananas became a valuable export crop. Plantations were established, railways were built, ports expanded. Entire industries emerged around supplying bananas to distant markets. For many consumers in Europe and North America, bananas became one of the first tropical fruits available at an affordable price. Demand grew rapidly, and one variety rose above all others, a banana known as Gros Michel. Gros Michel dominated the export trade for decades. It was productive, transported well, and according to many who tasted it, had exceptional flavour. For a time, it seemed unstoppable. But there was a problem. Almost every plantation was growing genetically identical plants. The very feature that made bananas so useful, being cloned through suckers, also created a hidden vulnerability. A disease that could infect one plant could potentially infect them all. That disease arrived in the form of Panama disease, a soil-borne fungal pathogen that attacked banana roots and vascular tissues. Once established in the soil, it was incredibly difficult to remove. Plantation after plantation began to fail. Entire regions lost their banana crops. The industry searched desperately for solutions, but eventually the conclusion became unavoidable. Gros Michel could no longer support the global export industry. A replacement was needed. That replacement was the Cavendish banana, the banana many people know today. Cavendish possessed one critical advantage. It was resistant to the strain of Panama disease that had devastated Gros Michel. The industry transitioned, plantations were replanted, supply chains adapted, and once again, bananas filled supermarket shelves around the world. For decades, the solution appeared successful, but history had not finished teaching its lesson. A new strain of Panama disease emerged, tropical race 4, often shortened to TR4. Like earlier forms of the disease, it spreads through soil, water, equipment, and plant material. And like the earlier epidemic, it threatens genetically uniform banana production systems. Around the world, researchers, growers, and governments continue searching for solutions, breeding programs, improved management practices, disease monitoring, biosecurity measures. The battle continues today. And perhaps this is where the story becomes relevant to backyard gardeners, because the history of bananas is not only about bananas, it is also a story about diversity. When entire industries depend on a single variety, risks increase. When landscapes contain many varieties, many species, and many different genetics, resilience often improves. A home gardener may never produce millions of tons of fruit. But every time someone grows a different banana variety, shares a sucker with a friend, or preserves a cultivar that might otherwise disappear, they become part of a much larger story. A story that began thousands of years ago in tropical forests. A story shaped by countless generations of growers. And a story that is still unfolding today. The next time you see a banana, whether it's growing in a backyard, hanging from a market stall, or sitting on a supermarket shelf, it is worth remembering that you are looking at far more than a simple fruit. You're looking at the result of thousands of years of human selection. A plant that crossed oceans and continents, a crop that helped feed nations, and a fruit whose story continues to shape agriculture around the world. Thank you for listening to this WLD audio. We create these audio profiles so you can listen and learn more about the crops and systems around us while you're in the garden, on the road, or simply exploring the world of edible landscapes. I hope this was useful for someone out there. Like to explore more crops, information sheets, videos, and audio profiles, simply return to the WLD library where you'll find related plants and growing resources.